this. But we're not looking at the instigator in this. So we're calling them the instigator when there's only one prime instigator, which is Israel. And so what I'm saying is that when they invaded Lebanon back in the day, are you saying that Lebanon just had no reason to have a problem with Israel? Or are we just saying that they just came out and, I want to kill an Israeli today? I don't understand the point here. It made it seem like Hezbollah forming that is wrong because of what they did back in the day. Like I said, Israel invaded Lebanon. Was it the other way around? I'm happy to respond if nobody else wants to.
I'm confused with what he's saying because this is the problem. We look at Shia identity or martyrdom. Right? Lebanon has a Shia Muslim community, and then they're supported by the Islamic Revolution. So, when it comes to it's like a really that's why I say it's really complicated. Like the Middle East, this is all around religion, and this is how I feel. I feel it's all around religion. Nobody gives a fuck about the Shia population. And then some of the stuff that they're doing, it may be them protecting or trying to protect what they feel is rightfully theirs. But then again, this is still going to be a Middle East problem, and that's not only to include Israel, that would be to include Qatar, that would be to include Bahrain, that would be to include Jordan, who doesn't even really, to be honest with you, they probably don't care what happens to Palestine at this point because of historical shit that's happened in the past. They're only protecting themselves. These Middle Eastern countries really are not on the same page as what you think they're on. They're only doing certain things because of their population and them saying, we're all Muslim, we're still brothers. But outside of that, there's no real support. So if you look at how Hezbollah was conceived, this is part of Iran's prodigal to export their own Islamic revolution. And when it comes to foreign proxies, Iran is probably the most powerful when it comes to funding or training, guidance when it comes to ideology. This is not something that is very complex, and how you're speaking on it, it's mentally in my brain, and that's why I'm getting confused with some of the stuff that you're saying. It's like you're only taking a bit of information and not understanding the whole.
Can I maybe throw something in there? You look, and this is something I think we could all maybe learn from. It's one thing, if you're standing in an area, see a wall that's dividing two people. Factually, you've got a wall there. You could also give an opinion and judgment and say, well, it's a shame that the wall is being put up and is dividing two people. But to be able to leave it there and be angry for one side putting up the wall and blaming them for the separation doesn't get into the nuance and context. Understanding and reaching a reason why was there a wall put up to start off with is a key question to be able to put up there. And it's like if we learned that terrorists were going over this line and they were killing innocent people, and that's the reason why the wall was put up, then that's an understanding of the why. But understanding, well, has it been effective or not? Well, that's another thing. And if you find that 97% of terrorist attacks and killings have been stopped, then you'd have to say, well, actually, I understand now why the wall's put up. I would have done the same thing myself. The same thing goes to to these comments well, Israel didn't initiate military attack against Lebanon. In 1982, the reason why Israel needed to be able to go in there, yes, Israel did go in there, but only after continued PLO attacks and an assassination attempt on the Israeli ambassador in London. And the same thing goes in 2006. Israel's at war with Lebanon because Hezbollah crossed over the border, killed 3 people, and captured 2 Israeli soldiers. So there was a need to be able to, for Israel to be able to do that, to be able to catch up. So Yeah, you're right in saying that Israel is at war with multiple people, but understand at the same time, like Hamas, their charter. Are you familiar with their charter?
Yeah, I've heard.
Is it new?
Yeah. Never.
Yeah. Okay. Well, I mean, did Israel force Hamas to be able to write their charter in Article 7 of their charter in 1988? Clearly states what its objective is, and that is to be able to kill all Jews. They're a Nazi organization, effectively, and to be able to wipe Israel off the planet. Now, do you seriously think that you could be friendly? These two parties could be friends and shake hands and play around with each other. It'd be silly to think that they can. Two people need to be able to find common ground to be able to achieve a common outcome. And there's a reason why there is a complex situation which is there, but it could be very simply put like this. If Hamas chose to be able to put down their weapons and want peace, there'd be peace. If Israel chose to put down their weapons, there'd be no Israel. And because of that, there's a reason for Israel to be able to defend itself at all costs. It's their responsibility.
Okay.
Yeah,
Wait. Wait, Levon, you wanted to respond?
Yeah, I mean, we have Kim Jong-un in North Korea that has a nuke, and he's constantly have an infrared threat towards South Korea. Is anybody doing preemptive strikes against them? I mean, we're just gonna ignore international law, all these preemptive stuff, and have Israel get away with this stuff. I mean, we're talking about a live stream genocide that's going on every single day. None of these people have clean hands every single day, and we're just gonna ignore that and just blow up international norms and do preemptive strikes. That's not. I don't care what anybody's chanting. The diplomacy was not allowed to work, and we do all of this subterfuge, and then we want to act surprised that they're going to withdraw from, which was the original topic of the IAEA. How are we better off based on what Netanyahu and Trump just did? In fact, we're worse.
Point of order. Who modded Mother? Stop the program. Stop the program. Who?
I'm sorry, I had to do it. Alright, I'll move myself to the audience now. It's fine. Wow. That's crazy.
Hold on, cash in that big ticket for this pack.
So, I had something I wanted to say. Am I free to go? Where's the first lady? Can someone bring her back up? Can I speak on what I wanted to say, or should I?
Their sphere of just a few people, I feel like the bar is raised. I don't think the bar is lowered. I mean, some people I think take it as sort of an invitation to have a dual life, and personally, I don't think it's very healthy. But also, I think that it's a bad habit to get into. I mean, you've just seen so many situations where it just becomes impossible to guard sort of the many-pronged faces of living a life. And I know in early psychology and psychoanalysis, they were always talking about these blank slate therapists, blank slate analysts, and I don't believe in blank slate anything. And so
somebody has a room called Trump and MAGA are racist.
Because, I think congruency is just, as I've heard it said lately, it's about the realness, it's about, can you connect with somebody and does it feel genuine? Does it feel easy?
I've watched people now,
and talking about, fake leadership or whatever, how we put that, it does make a lot of sense, because how can you, I think it puts you in a position of at home, you're sort of this one thing, you go to work, I get you have different personas you're putting on, and those are functional, and that's fair to do, and I think some of us have more pressure or less pressure to do that, but I think you're on the money when you talk about congruency being a really important aspect of being a good leader. Having integrity, yada yada. And good morning, Susie. Good morning, Steve. Anyone want to?
Yeah, I would like to. The first page of the Dhammapada, which is an ancient Buddhist text, says that everything comes from the mind, and that basically what you focus your mind upon is what grows and flourishes. And so if you put that together with other Buddhist texts, what they say is you suffer through life if you're, so to speak, not congruent, to use your words. If you are not, expressing your mind, living according to your mind, understanding your mind. If you're in conflict with yourself, your mind, whatever, you're going to suffer. And so people who are inauthentic, who are fake salesmen, like that Always Be Closing. What was that movie? The real estate movie. It was a play, and then
Glenn Ross.
Yes, thank you. Always Be Closing. You have to be in some kind of agreement with your own mind, or number one, the people around you will see it. Number two, there's no way to lead effectively if you don't really know where you're leading from and why and where you're leading to. And this is Barbara's territory, not mine, but one good thing, I suppose, about psychological training and the kind of studying and deep diving that you've done, Dr. James, and do on a regular basis is examine congruency and try to bring people into agreement with their own minds. So,
Including self.
Actually, Dr. James, just quickly, cognitive dissonance. You could look at cognitive dissonance from a psychological perspective, is what this is referring to from a Buddhist perspective.
right.
I'd love to add one thing. Just what you said, Dr. James, I don't want that to be missed when you said including yourself. Because what we often find, so we do these leadership assessments, right? Which is called the 360. So your peers assess you, your direct reports assess you, your boss assess you, and you assess yourself. And what we see often is that, and I'm going to put a gender lens on it too, right? Men tend to overestimate themselves in terms of how you, on a scale of 0 to 10, how effective are you in whatever, right? Valuing people, valuing differences, or something like that. And women tend to underestimate themselves, right? Under assess themselves, right? But the point is that there's an incongruence between self and others, right? So important to have that kind of deep dive on, wow, I thought I saw myself like that, but that's not how I occur or how I land for others, right? So how can I create congruence between my intentions, which is to be respectful, inclusive, and effective, whatever, right? And how I actually land for the people. That's the learning. And I love what you said, calling out the self. So I'm done for now. Thanks.
Interesting, Barbara. I think one of the first times that I opted to do a little mini talk in here, I did a talk around these types of biases and some of the differences in the way gender is both perceived and experienced from kind of a psychological framework. And I really do think that's on the money and it's not to be missed. And yeah, the reason why I say self is because, and this is something I brought up right at the end of the time we had here yesterday, was in psychology. If you're getting a degree through an American Psychological Association accredited school, there's a requirement you have a minimum of a year's worth of personal therapy. And I think that's part of sort of the ethos to do no harm, because, obviously we want to get a bit more in touch with, things we may be missing about ourselves as part of the process of being helpful. And I think it's good. I appreciate the work you do. We probably have a lot of overlap in terms of some of the things we've experienced, but you're coming from much more kind of seasoned, experienced place from that, and I'm kind of at a new start of a new career. But it's kind of not a new career, but becoming licensed, it's going to be its whole new bag of kind of ethics to hold. And one of the things that I thought about it is, on the other side of a license, one really becomes kind of an autonomous agent of personal and professional ethics, and the only thing at that point holding someone back from, doing harm or doing some sort of thing that could get them into hot water, I think, is really just having developed over time habits that continue to evidence practicing ethics in their lives, and having some values that they understand and they can sort of anchor to. And I think this is really kind of an important thing. And I think earlier I was asking about kind of the perception of different professions. Different professions, there is more of an expectation. If you're a police officer, you may be considered very skilled if you're good at deception. And then, if you're a politician, you probably are frowned at for being good at deception, and you probably have an oath you've taken that means you have to be more transparent. So it's just a very smarmy place, because different people coming from different positions on, what is ethical behavior, what is honesty, what is trust, does it matter? I think it's a really interesting conversation.
Can I just offer a national perspective?
Yeah, absolutely.
So I come from Denmark, the same as Barbara originally, and we sort of have a friendly banter with Sweden, our neighboring country. So we're in Europe, we're in the Nordics, and we are actually the two countries that have been in most war in world history, Danes and Swedes. So now I'm talking bad about Swedes. I come from this is my disclaimer. So the Nordics are very often pointed out to be among the happiest populations in the world. So how come the Danes are the happiest people in the world? Well, right now it's the Finns. They don't understand why. I can say that's in truth because I'm half Finnish. But so Scandinavia seems to be very happy people. But somebody said to me a year ago, they said, it's a little bit interesting why Sweden will never come on top of that list. And we immediately agree they will not. And the interesting mental thing in that is actually because they lie and Danes don't. So Danes have the reputation of, I know all you guys from the US, you're going to enjoy this, to be the United States of Northern Europe. That means that we are very friendly, very calm, but we also to the point. So if you ask me, do you think I did a good job? We will most likely say, no, I don't think so. There were bits that were good, but well, no, not really. And that would be honoring our relationship, that I tell you the truthful answer, which is quite interesting in this discussion. But then again, if you go to a Swede and said, is this company that we're in, should we do this new task? Then in Denmark, you would go, yes, I think so because, or no, I don't think so because, and somebody will make a decision at the end. But in Sweden, you have a group of 10 people, you ask them the question, they will all have to agree. That means somebody has to lie.
That's a really interesting point. And I think that is another wonderful nuance of sort of the conventions of truth-telling and kind of the cultures of truth-telling and that sort of thing. Yeah.
How do you achieve consensus?
Well, sometimes you don't, right? Sometimes you just don't. People either, like what Susie's saying, they kind of fold, right? Versus really to get an agreement. But you can achieve alignment, right?
In Intel, we used to have a principle called disagree and commit, which meant that in every meeting, I never really understood it. In my own case, I disagreed enough times that I walked out. But disagree and commit, then you can express your displeasure or disagreement, but then you had to say, okay, you're on my team, I'm on your team. We're gonna do this even if I think it's wrong. And how does that square? I'm just thinking about this. It's been over 25 years since I worked at Intel, but
I'm curious to ask Susie about, as a Dane, this is my perspective about happiness. I think that Danes are content, right? And there's a level of contentment that equates to happiness, right? And then there's the happiness part, because I was just talking to my sister for a couple hours last night. She's in Copenhagen and she's in this tiny little apartment, and she's and she downsized, blah blah blah, and she said, I'm really enjoying this 800 square foot whatever, right? Is content, which then she says, I'm happy. What do you think of that, Susie?
I think one of my Danish German border people, sorry, Schleswig-Holstein. So we have a minority of Danes living in Germany, and they are allowed to enter Denmark without any cost at all. So he went to Denmark after growing up in Denmark, and he works with a lot of international students and people working in IT. He said that the people said, the Danes, they aren't that cold, they're difficult to get used to. And then he said to me, I had this sort of vision one day, they're not cold, they're calm. And I think calm is the best expression I ever heard to explain a Dane. That's because if you get fired, that's no big deal. Because the Danish workforce system is made so it's very easy to hire and it's very easy to fire. And that means that the government has taken the risk for the workforce and say, well, we have made a system where you will actually get 80% of your income for 1 year currently. That means that we don't worry about getting fired because we can be calm and think, okay, maybe I'm not doing the right thing. Maybe I should take a second education. Maybe I should work for a different company. It's no big deal if I get fired. You can take the education you want to because we get paid to educate ourselves until a certain limit, of course. But every single Dane has the right to not only free education, but also get paid while you're studying. So that means we are calm. We're very, very calm. And sometimes a little bit, if you're calm, are you happy? I think it goes a long way. But can you still be desperate even though that you're calm? Yes, you definitely can.
Wow, that is exactly the opposite of what I have noted in the United States. First of all, in the United States, we're all totally identified with our work. So it's not, so if we get fired, a part of our being has been taken away. So this is, which is why
that's true
AI
as well, actually. But in a sort of funny way. So I studied in Great Britain for a couple of years, and I did a student job where I was I was a temp staff as a waiter, and I became incredibly popular as a temp staff because I just took my Danish work ethics to my jobs. And all the British people I work with, they're like, why are you doing all this? And I said, that's because when I get paid to be here, this 5-star hotel, they have a huge do with 1,000 guests, and the success of the event, that is my job. So I don't need a boss to tell me that the wine is being cooled instead of being heated. I can see that for myself, and I just take action because that's my job to make a success and not to do what they can tell me to do. So you take responsibility as a Dane, and that is very typical for Danes working abroad. That there's this kind of honoring and.
I'm not a Slovenian. I'm just saying what it could have, theoretically been.
I got it. Just like on the block. On the block.
Hold on. That's why defund doesn't work. Because if you're actually paying attention to not just the nation, but certain communities, especially in the South, and how they feel about police in particular, you're not going to run that. You're going to have to flip that into, Why don't we get community centers and other things like that? So it is a thing of that. I'm not making excuses for Nina because, like I said, Nina.
No, not your city.
I thought you were talking about it.
It's going to blame the Democratic establishment. Whenever progressives lose, it's never that they alienate people. It's never that they're anti-party,
or like I said, the charter school thing makes it involved.
It's never that they don't do, never that. It's only the Democratic establishment. Now, I happen to have some ins with some of the bougie blacks of Cleveland. They had meet and greets. They had church events. They had town halls and all types of shit. Nina Turner would not show up to talk to those old black church ladies because she had to do CNN hits.
She knows she got to.
It's always a Democratic establishment.
I feel like, James, you go. Can I go for a little bit and then you go, James?
Bro, I just got up here and started talking.
So did I. I'm
No, I was just going to finish up my point about how the sloganeering doesn't work, especially when you don't have. Oh, I'm in the Matrix?
Oh, I heard him clearly. You're actually coming in here. I'm in the Matrix? I got all my bars.
So, to make a long story short on my point on why defund doesn't work and why some of these other things don't work is because I think that the people that are running really don't have a good pulse or are outside enough where they can actually see why this may not work and why we may have to tailor the message to something that's more palatable. Defund was never going to work, like I said. You have a cultural context where unfortunately we have been inundated with pro-police propaganda. I mean, I still remember the Serena Daniels trial when Tanya Haggerty was killed in the late 90s. When that woman cried and said, "I fear for my safety," even as a teenager, I said, they gonna let this woman go just because she cried on the stand and said she feared for her safety from a black woman that wasn't threatening her. What happened? Not guilty. I just had to be escorted out by a car. And that's where you see this, that's how defund doesn't work. There are a lot of people that are sympathetic to their plight because of how media plays a role, it shapes ideas, and if you're running a campaign and you don't know that, 9 times out of 10 you're gonna lose. I wanted to say, y'all, I'm done.
No, I don't disagree with that, but I really do think, and I know nobody likes it, it's definitely a style over substance issue. I've been on Clubhouse a while. I remember the week Defund the Police came out, and I told liberals and leftists that this is a terrible slogan. It should be like refund the block. We should have like different ways to talk about this thing without literally making a statement that's untenable with what we state is our philosophy, which is that the more you fund government institutions, the better they behave. It's not actually like a statement that is even coherent with a leftist worldview. So that's a part of why it's bad. But on top of that, it certainly wasn't just the liberals doing that corporatist, like pandering to identity issues in lieu of dealing with like substantive issues around class. It wasn't leftist in kente cloths on Juneteenth. It wasn't leftist doing that shit. And so there's a lot of bad optics. There was a lot of bad optics that helped caricature liberalism in a way that seemed insincere. And when I say the Mamdani model works, it doesn't mean Mamdani's substantive interests that are aligned for New York worldviews work. It means he doesn't talk too long. He doesn't say right at the end of every affirmative sentence. And he sounds and moves and speaks like a fairly heteronormative man. Like he's a heteronormative man.
The guy that went around to all the different religious temples and put their hats and shit on.
That guy.
Wait, you just said, wait, okay. So
that guy.
Again, but you just said he didn't do the things like the kente cloth.
It's how he presented himself. He didn't come in the kente
This is so funny.
You don't like the style, man. You don't like the style. But the bottom line is, the shit you did.
He didn't do it. He didn't do it.
He didn't do it in the same way. He's literally Muslim. So whatever he did in the mosque was like literally.
Sikhs are Muslims.
He's a Sikh? I didn't even know that.
He's not a Sikh. Oh my God. He's not a Sikh.
You said what's not Muslim? You're yelling.
Never mind, bro.
No, you just yelling like you.
Listen.
Oh my God. Nah, y'all be fast.
What I'm saying.
Go ahead.
No, you keep talking. I'm trying to explain to you. When he would go to the Sikh temples and stuff, he would put on the hats and stuff. did the same thing.
I'm talking about black voters. You were talking about black voters. The Sikhs.
Like,
There's nothing more New York
black
than
voters.
God,
bro.
I just feel like
Voters
if you don't think
Democrats.
the reality is there's a difference between how Otis and Trent spoke to Nathan and how you were speaking to Nathan, and whether you agree with it or not. You were doing the Mom Donnie shit. You were doing the Mom Donnie shit. Stop yelling at me, go.
You are
Everything is meta. Everything is meta.
Did you know he put everything is not meta? He did do this version of the
I think they're making I think the comparison is unfair. I think the comparison is unfair.
It is not unfair.
If you
It's just
believe,
people liked him.
also, but I said that before. He's likable. I said that
But
before.
you said that people didn't. You said he didn't do it, and what I'm saying is he did do it.
When he
Obama
does it,
did it.
Obama seems authentic when he does it. He seems believable when he does it. There's a performance to it too. There's a performance to it too. What you did with Nathan was a performance.
Come on, bro. Calm down. What you're doing is a performance. Let me ask you a question. Why did they do the kente cloth? Do you know?
I don't remember what the function was for. Was it for George Floyd or was it for Juneteenth? I don't remember.
They were asked to by a black group. Asked them to do it.
I don't know who them niggas
They
are.
were literally asked to do it.
I don't know who them niggas are. But I can name some niggas that sound
It
like
doesn't
that.
matter. So it's damned if you do, damned if you don't. So if you don't do the thing, it's a problem. And then if you do the thing, it's a problem.
How did you not know that the kente cloth would be like farcical online? How did nobody around them know? It's not everything's a distraction.
Because it happens all the time in politics. It happens all the time in politics.
Could it be that Dems are bad at politics right now?
Man, this is insane. You asked me a question, I'm answering it. Okay. It happens all the time. In this one time, because the people were old and Democrats were unpopular, and it was MAGA, they got caught up. Politicians go and do these kinds of things all the time. Montgomery does it all the way to Schumer does it. Eric Adams was out there talking about, what was he saying the other day? New York is the Albania of America. I forgot what it was. It happens all the time.
If you can't, let me know.
Go ahead, I'm not, but go ahead.
Well, I mean, I'll give you the pauses. Go ahead. I didn't mean to interrupt you. It was a dramatic pause. Go ahead.
It wasn't dramatic. I was inhaling.
Go ahead. I didn't mean to kidnap you. I already said kidnap. I didn't mean to interrupt you. Go ahead.
I lost my train. Go ahead, Dean.
I was just saying, if you can't tell the difference between a Ghanaian, Nigerian, Muslim going to a Sikh temple versus Italian as Nancy Pelosi and a kente cloth, I don't know, man. If it's the same to you, it's the same to you. But I don't think it's received the same way from the American public. I don't think it's received the same way.
More than that. Articulate. He's done more than just the Sikh thing.
I'm responding to the thing you said.
Oh my God. You know what you do? This is what you do. You find out new information and then change your original argument. Your argument, he didn't do those kinds of things. He did do those kinds of things. Nancy Pelosi before has done those kinds of things. It's just that moment. They did not lose any, but Kamala Harris did not lose any voters because of the CDC. And if you think those are the kind of things Democrats have to do, as opposed to developing a better immigration policy, then we're really cooked.
I think they got it. Well,
You never have anything. You never have any. Of course, Republicans use one election. Republican. You're not a Democrat. Otherwise, they would.
What am I?
I think you're a progressive. So you said last night people should become social. What is it? SDA.
No, I'm not a DSA, but what I say is I think there's things we want to do in the DSA. Is it a DSA, Democratic Socialist?
No, yeah, you were right. I'm sorry. You think you can learn from the DSA?
Yeah, I think there's a way to integrate.
Track record?
I think there's a way to integrate some of the style of approach in certain largely white male spaces that
Of the
are
DSA?
Yeah.
Oh my God.
What is DSA?
So have you ever been to a DSA meeting? They're terrible, bro. I mean, I can be honest with you. Be honest. Have you ever been to a DSA meeting?
I don't go to meetings. I don't feel I need to go to a meeting to learn about DSA. But I mean, it's also deeply.
You might want to opinion on that one. For those of us who
all y'all do is either talk to me or shut up.
It's funny because those of us who know about DSA, especially in New York, they do all the racist cringe things that you say not to do. So it's actually very capable for you saying people should learn from the DSA. Like everything you critique Democrats for, that's what DSA does. That's why it's funny.
What policies are they pushing for in DSA?
They locked me somewhere, bound and
Oh, no, that's articulate. He was the one that said
It's articulate. What are the 3 policies are they pushing?
Socialist shit. They're fucking democratic socialists. The Bernie shit. A lot of them are green. Some of them are cringe. Many of them are like Vermont side, English lit type of people. But on the other side of it, because they have a politics that's quote unquote not deracialized and class based, the Vines-ass Rogan kids do still kind of find an affinity towards them. And while I don't think you can win a lot of them over, I do think at least learning to put forth that style for the moment. Like we can accept Barack Obama doing a campaign that was like multicultural and not pointedly, identitarian. That shit might be what it is right now. The country isn't ready for like overt racialized identity, like gender, sex statements. They really do, however, hate fucking millionaires. They really, that shit is real. That shit is real. Like,
you think DSA doesn't do that? Okay, you don't know anything about DSA. This is wild.
You always say people don't know anything because you disagree with what they're saying. Like, I mean, if I don't know about anything, then just stop talking to me. I don't know anything, right?
No, well, if you don't know anything, stop talking. Why is it incumbent on me to stop talking if I know, but you don't know?
To be fair, you never have a conversation with me where I have 10 people who are saying nothing, just cackle when it's your turn to talk. So that's just generally honest.
This one was really funny because the DSA does all of the identity stuff that you were talking about.
I don't love that.
I'm almost done. Mamdani himself, until about 3 weeks ago, also does all of the identity stuff. Like, this is what's funny about you somehow think that you said that they were deracialized and class-based and that they do socialist shit. That's hilarious.
The DSA doesn't do socialist shit. That's not what the argument is.
No.
Okay, what's
Democratic socialists? They do not believe in socialism.
I understand.
They're a bunch of white boys getting ting-tanged. They're a complete mess. So many people have left the DSA. They're horrible.
I get it. So let's just consider this. I mean, who do you think is the model they go?
It depends on the
national level.
I already said on the national level. It depends on there is no model on the national level until you get a nominee. And so I think when you have a nominee, I think like right now, the model for Democrats successfully has been no one from the coast. That's probably what they need to do as a starting point.
If that's how
I used to hate that argument, but I think it's true.
If that's how you feel, that's how you feel. What I'm actually trying to say here isn't that you take everything that you hate about a DSA and apply it on the national level. I'm saying you find areas in which there is like traction, or at least like a depressive aspect on the opposition, the actual opposition, not internal oppositions, and you see where you can apply it. I think the thing that makes Mamdani most effective is he looks, talks, sounds, and feels like
it does have to vote. Believe me, that was a struggle last year with the whole young people protesting last year. Last year. God, that feels like 10 years ago already. The presidential race. So he did it. He won. I think it was it 43, almost 44% to about 30. Sorry, I don't have the numbers right in front of me because I
think it was like
38 to 36
to 30.
It was about an 8-point lead, wasn't it? It wasn't a full 10-point lead, but nonetheless. But when I looked at the map, I thought it was really interesting because he took a lot of Manhattan. which I thought was
Yeah.
very interesting, and not surprising about Brooklyn. And then Cuomo's big leads I thought were concentrated in Staten Island and up in the Bronx, which
And you know what's interesting?
made my hair stand on edge. Well, there's a big Italian contingency,
That's true.
which I don't think of us as being tribal, because I certainly don't necessarily fit in that crowd. But and I want to just correct that yesterday towards the end of our talk, I was, excited and moving on to something else, and I misspoke. And of course, Ken Frankel, who I think is originally from New York, correct me if I'm wrong, Ken. He is. Ken is always right for the most part. Ken is, and I appreciate you, Ken. I misspoke about Zoran being a state assembly. I know, but obviously Zoran was a state assembly. Is still a state assembly person, and for the 36th district. So I misspoke yesterday, and I wanted to call that out. And of course, also, I just wanted to correct one other thing, which is that his policy on rent was to try to freeze rents and build more affordable housing and go after more, I think, tax on the wealthy to make that happen. And there's a larger debate out there about how economically feasible any of these policies are, or how much, fighting and politicking and partnership building they'll need to get it over the line and into legislation. But if he does win, but he certainly has excited the youth base with, I think, these simple messages around affordability. I'm not going to weigh into his position on Israel or Gaza right now, but I just want to say that it was seen as, a stunning upset, but many people are trying to take lessons from it. I think one of the messages they're now that maybe Dems are looking at is this is a sign of embracing that the party wants change, or that certain segments of the party want change and are embracing change. And perhaps that's going to be a line they're going to go with. But there was I can tell you, I got a million texts from a lot of young people who were very excited, and also from friends that I know many people that ranked Lander first and Adrian Adams second. So it'll be interesting to see moving forward if he does win, and if people are concerned about his lack of extensive experience managing the city, what kind of strong team he could build by maybe having some of those same people that were running with him in some capacity. But I think so. Now we're looking at a four-way general. If Cuomo said he seems to have said he'll keep his options open. He didn't. He said he's on the general election ballot. So I'm assuming he's going to run, but he said he'll keep his options.
He has his own party.
He's not going to run.
Yeah, that's what I wanted to. Yeah, go ahead.
He's not going to run. He said what he said, but I mean, the fact that he conceded so quickly because he knows that he's not going to, the way that the numbers are going to breathe on the, what do you call it, on the,
between him and Adams.
No, the way that the numbers run, because it's what's the system called again? It's the
rank choice,
right? So the way the numbers are going to break on rank choice, he already did because I'm gonna lose. Okay, that's why he conceded so quickly. Okay.
No, that I do. But you think he won't run again?
No, because if you can't win a Democratic primary, you get clocked like this, and you're a former governor and the son of a former governor. Okay, you're just not going to win in November. And he's got the incumbent mayor running in November. You have a Republican who's well known, even though he's run before. Okay, and he's not really a politician, which is Sliwa. Okay, so no, I don't think he's going to make. I think if Adams wasn't in it, Cuomo would definitely make a run for it. Okay, but because Adams is in it, I think Cuomo, he's going to do one of two things. He's either going to actually endorse Madami before the election, saying that he wants to endorse the Democratic nominee, or he's going to stay neutral. But I don't believe he himself is going to actively run.